I think it already is recording, isn't it?
It's like a backup recording.
Got it.
We're all here. We're ready.
Awesome. Well, we're going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. This meeting of the Housing Authority of the County of Monterey on Monday, August 28th, 2023 at 5:03 p.m. Let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
One nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And now if we could have a roll call, please.
Chair John Wizard, absent. Vice Chair Hans Buder,
Present.
Commissioner Kevin Healy. Commissioner Kevin Healy. Absent.
Present.
Oh, okay, present. Commissioner Kathleen Bellastaros.
Present.
Commissioner Francine Goodwin.
Present.
Commissioner Maria Orozco.
Present.
Okay, and then the other position is vacant, so that concludes the roll call.
Okay, thank you. And item 3, do we have any comments from the public tonight?
Yes, we do. One in person.
Great. Thank you so much. You've got 3 minutes. We appreciate you making a comment.
Yeah, that way they can see.
Good evening, Ms. Boykin and Board of Commissioners. My name is Adriana de los Santos, and I have been working for the Housing Authority for about 20 years. I currently work in the Housing Programs Department, and I would like to welcome Ms. Maria Orozco to this board. So today I just want to give or provide the board information regarding the Housing Programs Department from the lens of an employee who has been here for 20 years. So the Housing Authority, the housing programs has been working as if we were living in the 1900s, as my son would say. And we do have one too many manual procedures that are time consuming. But the good news is that we are working towards the 21st century with the new HACM website. It's to Gabby. And hopefully we're going to start with the rent cafe in September. Within the past 8 months or so, the employees have had the opportunity to learn things that I, for example, personally had no idea, like the 2-year tool, VMS, and those are things that the employee should know. And so I feel like we're moving in the right direction, empowering the employees and educating us and giving us opportunities to grow within the company. So I just want to share that information, and thank you very much. And welcome again, Ms. Orozco.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Adriana. We appreciate that. That view. I think sometimes it's tough from our chair because we don't get a chance to sort of really see the day-to-day operations. But it's great to hear that those things are happening. And I agree with you. I think trying to move into the 21st century will result in better outcomes for everybody. So that's really great to hear. Are there any other comments from the public tonight?
I don't see anyone with their hands up.
Okay. Then we're going to move on to item 4, which is a couple of presentations. We're going to start with the presentation of a service award, and I'm going to let Zulika run with that one.
Okay. This certificate of service is for Loretta Lozado for 5 years of law service to the agency. She works in the HCV department, and she has been instrumental in us changing some of the processes and getting the VMS 2-year 2 and mainstream program up to HUD conditions so that we can be in compliance. She's not here, but we will make sure that she gets this, and she is a very valued employee. And she have a PN as well.
Fantastic. Congratulations, Loretta, for your years of service. And we're going to move on now to item 4B, which is welcoming a new commissioner, which is exciting.
Well, Hans, who I thought was going to talk.
I could talk. I mean, you know, Maria, it's great to have you on board. I mean, we've been down a person for a while, and there's a ton of work to do. So hop on board.
Thank you.
We've been through a bit in the past, couple of years here, and so your presence is going to be welcome. It sounds like you have some fantastic, public policy experience in local politics and policy. So, I can't wait to meet you in person and, for you to help us in the work that we do. So welcome. And I would encourage, other commissioners, if anyone else has a comment, feel free to, to welcome Maria here.
Juan, I'll go ahead and say something. So Maria, we want to welcome you to the Board of Commissioners. Thank you. We know that we actually have 2 seats. We had 2 seats, but now we have 1 empty. But representing the South County, it's going to help, those constituents that need housing. And I think you'll be a voice for them in our county. And also too, because of your experience. So we just want to welcome you.
Thank you.
And we also will learn from you since you've been in the public, office. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the warm welcome. Just a little bit about myself. I retired about 4 years ago. It seems like just yesterday from the city of Salinas after almost 35 years of public service with the city of Salinas. And part of my work include administering and helping administer the city's first-time homebuyer program, the city's housing rehab program, and the latter part of my years with the city, I also work with small businesses and helping them start their business or improve their businesses. I also served on the Gonzales City Council for almost 19 years, 9 of those which were as the mayor, and then I took a 2-year break, and then I got back on council again as a council member. And I am the proud recipient of the first-time homebuyer program opportunity that I received back in 1991 when I purchased my first home for the city of Gonzales. So, and that was before I even knew what first-time homebuyer programs were or how they work. So, very passionate about housing. So I look forward to working with the Housing Authority. We do have some projects in the city of Gonzales that I've been involved with and worked with, and staff as well. So look forward to working with you and the constituents of South County. I always say, we're South County, we're the little cities that sometimes get forgotten, but we're very mighty. Thank you again.
Well, thanks, Maria. And then, obviously some of the things I think it sounds like you've had a chance to take a look at the packet. So if there's any items that you feel like you want to abstain from tonight, feel free. If you want to go ahead and participate, I'll leave that in your court. And again, we're excited to have you on board. So moving on, we're going to move on to item 5, which is the consent agenda. And I would entertain a motion.
Move approval.
Right, second,
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Can we have a roll call, please?
Vice Chair Hans Luder,
Yes.
Commissioner Kevin Hillis,
Yes.
Commissioner Kathleen Delafaros,
yes,
Commissioner Francine Goodwin,
Yes,
Commissioner Maria. I'm gonna get that.
Does that include approval of the minutes on the consent? Then I'll stay.
One abstention. That concludes the vote.
Okay, thank you. We're going to move on to item 6, which is reports of committees. The first is the Personnel Committee. Commissioner Ballesteros, did the Personnel Committee meet?
no, we did not have a meeting this month.
Okay. The next is the Finance and Development Committee. We did have a meeting, Commissioner Healy and I, and we advanced the operating budget to the full board with a recommendation for approval. And that was sort of our main item. I think we also advanced a Tynan Village contract for some lingering repair work. And so that was another item. And so that's, I think, the heart of the report. Commissioner Healy, would you add anything to that?
No, Commissioner Booter, I think you covered it.
Great. Okay. And Commissioner Wizard is out, but Zulika, is there anything to add from Monterey County Housing Inc., otherwise known as Michi, or Michi AA?
Yes, I do have several items and they're covered in the executive director report. And I wanted to ask the board for consideration to remove this committee from future reports, since we no longer have representation on that board and all of the items are always included in the executive director's report. So if you could consider that, and then we can come back to the next board meeting for a decision. But some of the items that we have for Michi right now are the Parkside 2 PBB contract, the waiting list procedures for Parkside 2, lease payments for use of the land during the One Parkside construction, finalization of the interfund balance, and the finalizing questions for 2021 audit and assignment of interest for One Parkside. We're in the final stages since the audits have been prepared, and I will have a draft MOU to submit to the board for review to finalize the separation between Michi AA, HDC, and HACM.
Okay. Any questions from commissioners on any of those Michi items?
No.
Commissioner Goodwin, was that a comment or just?
no, I didn't have any comment.
Okay.
Thank you. Sorry.
All right. We're going to move on then to item 7, which is the executive director's report.
Okay, just a few things. Genevieve Louise Conwell, she's the ED for the COC. She has resigned her position, so they are currently seeking someone, and she will be in place until sometime in October. That change would greatly affect some of the programs we run here at the Housing Authority. So I will make the body aware once a new executive director has been chosen. For the HUD field office, we also have received a new HUD representative, Ms. Sarah J. Glover Johnson. The former representative, Safna, has been moved to another part of HUD. I think she's in QAD. So we may still work with her, but she will no longer be the agency's HUD representative for the HCB department and some of our financial issues. HUD came on site in August and did a VMS audit. It went back to July 2022. They concluded the audit in 3 days. We should have a report in the next 45 to 60 days to let us know about the findings. During the exit interview, they did indicate that we would have at least one finding that would be comprehensive of most of the things that they discovered. As soon as that review has been submitted, I will share a copy with the staff and the commissioners. Econometrica performed a review of the PBB program due to a previous violation that we had. HUD had them to do that under technical assistance. It was a 2-part training / review because they came and reviewed in 1 month. And then based on that, they came back in July and they did 2 separate trainings. I included a copy of the report in here for the commissioners because this is the actual report that was sent to the HUD field office. And that is also what triggers the EHB audit and the VMS audit because they're all kind of rolling into one to make sure that we address all the issues in the HCB program. We're still working with the city of Salinas. They got an extension for the PBB violation because they still have one small item that they need to get waived, but they're waiting on HCD to do that. That extension was approved. Once they submit that, we will be able to finalize that particular waiver. The county of Monterey, we're still working with the county behavioral health for the transition of Pablo Del Mar. Once the application has been awarded and we're further along in the process, I will have a packet for the board to review to show step by step what we plan to do at the property and get approvals to move forward with some of the rehab work. And possibly a name change. They have asked if we could change the name. I told them I don't know, that's up to the board. So all of that will be included in that packet. HACM HDC property management. The staff has been really excited. We're going to Jordan 1 for property management, which means the online applications and hopefully Rent Cafe will be implemented. We're looking at September 1st to do some of that. We are working on all of the properties to try to increase the gross potential rent by asking for rental increases and making other changes. The finance department is utilizing Jordan more efficiently, and we're looking forward to implementing PayScan. PayScan will allow them to pay all of the accounts payables electronically. So we won't really have any manual checks. Everything to be did through ACH and EFTs, and it'll streamline the procurement process as well, because the whole process workflow will mirror the procurement process so that once a check is ready to be cut, it has all the correct signatures and backup documentation. This will also help us with the repeat finding that we have been getting since 2019 on the audit for not following the procurement structure of the agency. And all of this yardage work, except the yardage work that's coming up on the HCV side, is just a small piggyback off the existing contract. So before we move forward on the HCV side, I will bring a proposal to the board for approval because that will be a substantial amount. And let's see. HDC is working with Night Development. Then they are going to assist with the rehab at Pablo Del Mar. The HCB department put on a landlord symposium. We had about 70 participants. It was really good, a really good turnout, a lot of great questions. We even signed up a landlord after the symposium and was able to get a family house, so that was great. And we're setting goals in the department to improve the utilization. Human Resources is working on the union negotiations as well as the yardage implementations that I referred to earlier. I already went over Michi, and we are in hopes that we'll be able to have 2 events to increase voucher utilization. One in September toward the end of the month, and the other in October. If we are successful with getting these locations, we'll have a mass certification where people we pull it off the waiting list, come in and actually get the voucher while they're at the event. We will have stations put up. But once the dates are set and we have the location, then I will submit it to the board to let you know exactly how we plan on doing it. And I think this will really help us get our utilization up so we can try to get to some type of sense of normalcy in the program. And we're working on the website. We should have something up within the next 2 weeks. Hopefully sooner, because the old website is still giving issues. It's not able to be utilized. The new one will have the basic information and a few extra pages on there, but we can continue to work on it while we have it up. So at least we do have a live website up with all the information. And that concludes my report.
Questions for Zalika on the report? Well, I had a comment. One comment was, I just really appreciate the level of detail. I think, when I read this report, I feel like I get a relatively comprehensive sense of what's going on with the agency in a way that I think in the past I haven't. When we, in prior administrations, if you will, you might get 5 or 6 bullet points, and here, we've got a solid 3 pages with really good detail. So I just really appreciate that. The only question I had, Zulika, was just what are the potential implications for the agency, or our our rating, et cetera, for having a finding for the HCV program?
Well, the good thing is that HUD is treating most of it as technical assistance. So by them treating it more so as technical assistance, it's not affecting the agency's rating. What they'll do, we're already on a plan. We have to meet with them monthly. So they will add that component to the existing plan and then come back and do another audit in maybe like 3 years for the VMS. So if we're able to continue to show them this path of positivity and growth, and hopefully not have any funds for recapture, the agency status should not be in trouble as far as that is concerned. There is one other issue. I did submit the CMAP today. And then looking at that, we had approximately 1,600 inspections that had never been completed going back to 2020, 2019, and about 141 certifications that were late. So that's going to affect the scoring on the CMAP, which is how the Section 8 program is labeled superior, standard, or trouble. I did draft the email and sent our HUD representatives to let them know that the COVID waiver should take care of the majority of the inspections to try to ease up on the negativity that's going to bring on the report. I'm going to also try to say the same thing with the late certification. Some of them was due to when the software was changed over in 2019. It was 5/8 that was sitting out there that nobody never submitted to pick. And then with COVID coming, they just been sitting out there the whole time. So I think in the last couple of years, the agency has been a high performer. I don't think it's going to be a high performer, but it should be a standard performer, which is fine. And as long as these other audits are still treated as technical assistance, we should not be labeled as troubled, especially with the agency audits having been completed.
Okay, that's definitely helpful. Yeah, it's definitely it's interesting to hear about 1,600 inspections. Obviously there's like 4,600 families with vouchers, so put that in context, and some of those might have been annual inspections, but still, it's an interesting number. Okay, well, if there's no other questions, we're going to move on to item 8, which is old business. Resolution 3091, a resolution approving the operating budget for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2023, and ending June 30th, 2024.
This resolution is for the new budget. It was presented during the finance committee meeting. And Michael Underwood, who is the director of finance, is here to answer any questions that anyone might have, or to present a summary. Michael, it might be good if you just present a summary before they vote on it for the members that were not in the committee meeting.
The budget for HACM, which is separate from the HDC board. Right now, we're looking at a budgeted net income number of about 800,000 positive. We ended last year at about 1.2 million and as a loss. So that's a significant swing to the favorable from the year just ended. But it's dependent upon having good voucher utilization and placement. And we need to have that to get the fees that we get from the from HUD for administration. The thing that we face are some pretty significant increases in costs. We've been trying to mitigate that by reducing temporary staff. We're faced with groundskeeper, for instance, our groundskeeping system service wants to literally double our contract from year to year because it had not gone up for a number of years. And that's a significant number. We'll also see a lot of increases in insurance across the company to the tune of probably more than $200,000 a year. We have included in the budget $1 million for new siding at Tesoros del Campo FLC. Yardie costs will increase because we're adding different and additional modules, but those costs will be offset by reducing some staff. One of the little cloud that hangs over the agency in general is just how HUD wants to look at our utilizations and voucher use and placement. And if they feel that we're not aggressive enough or successful enough, then there is always the potential of what they call clawback, which is they can come back to the agency and ask for money that's already been paid. And basically we have to pay it back. So that hangs out there. It's kind of an undetermined number, but it sits out there. So this budget is modestly favorable, and I think it fairly reflects costs and anticipated revenues. So I'd just recommend that. I think it's a fair representation for next year.
Any questions on the budget from commissioners?
I have a couple of questions. First, a clarifying point. When I look at the agenda, it lists this item as an information discussion only item, but there's a resolution for approval. Am I correct that the board action on page 31 should indicate an action item?
Yes.
Okay. And then thank you, Mike. Thank you, Zalika. After the finance committee meeting, I was able to dig into the detailed budgets that Gabby emailed over. And when I look at the consolidated HACM budget, and I look at Mike's narrative relative to the insurance cost increases, what I'm seeing in the budget comparison for the consolidated budget doesn't seem to reflect, unless I'm reading it wrong, the significant insurance premium increases. So.
Well, I know that in certain contracts that we've signed, the year-to-year change are these numbers that I'm quoting. So whether or not all insurance in the prior year was coded to the exact correct accounts, I can't tell you right off. I'd have to go back and research, but I just know from looking at the contracts that we've signed recently in the last 60 days, these types of increases have been coming through.
I guess relative to kind of the larger narrative of reflecting an $800,000 positive, if if the significant increases in insurance are baked into the cake, then that would offset. If somehow the budget comparison doesn't reflect correctly, then that would offset the $800,000 positive. So, okay, I'd like to, when you have a chance, if you'd look into the consolidated on the budget comparison sheet and look at the insurance budget and just help me either via email or whatever needs to happen, verify that those numbers are reflective of the significant increases that you're referring to in the narrative.
Sure.
Please.
We can set up a Teams meeting, Commissioner Hilly, so that we can go over that portion with you and any other commissioners that might have some further questions about the consolidated budget. That's why we separated it for this meeting, because I did find that it was a little confusing when all of it was put together. Because some of the properties are under HDC that have a dramatic increase, and then the other properties are under HACM. But the $800,000 that is the positive income would offset any other changes. And we were still at the time, I think, maybe waiting on 1 or 2 policies. But we can set up something at your convenience to discuss that on the Teams meeting. And I also invite any other commissioners to have any questions. If you want to do that, we're more than welcome to do that so that we can go over those areas.
I think just one piece of information that's kind of comforting is that we looked at all of the non-HACM properties, all the properties that that make up the whole portfolio for the agency that, you know, we're managing but we don't own. My gosh, how many of them are there? 20 or something. Anyway, it was good to see that those properties actually had though they have nothing to do with our financials, they were 7 million positive, which means that all those properties are making money and we take money from them in management fees. So if those properties were not healthy, then we wouldn't expect to get our management fees. So I think that's just part of a bit of good news to offset that. When I mentioned about the clawback cloud, there's kind of a positive going the opposite direction. Both of them are, you know, they're not directly related to the numbers on these particular budgets, but it's sort of the cloud that's over the entire agency.
Well, thank you both. I would definitely like to participate in that Teams meeting when it gets set up, just to get a little bit more clarity. And then one of the things that wasn't mentioned in the narrative, which I had a question about as it relates to property management fees from our separation from the Michi properties and what the impact on the revenue side is going to be to Housing Authority no longer having the property management responsibilities for those properties. That was one thing that I couldn't glean from the information.
All of that will be in the Michi packet for the separation. And before we severed ties with them on the property management, me, Kim, Mike, a group of us got together to really analyze the management fees. And because the management fees had not been increased in a couple of years, we were not charging the full rate that we could have charged. So that decreased the impact that it actually had on the financials for the agency. Because even though they're taking 3 properties, it's only 111 units, I think, in total. So the main concern was really how was it gonna affect staffing? Because they weren't generating substantial revenue. And we did work out with the staffing as well. But when I send out the MOU, I can put something on there to show you how much income was actually lost for each one.
Okay, excellent. I guess my final question would be relative to this as an action item. Would it be fair to say that the board would approve the budget as it exists today, and that through the Teams meeting and other downstream conversations, if there were amendments, then we could approve an amended budget subsequent to those conversations?
Yes, sir.
Wonderful. Thank you both. I appreciate it. Thank you, Commissioner Booter.
Thank you, Commissioner Healy. Any other questions from other commissioners? I had a question. In the committee, I could be wrong, but I feel like it was like a $2.9 million net income less. There was something at the very bottom about things being out there of 1.1 or something like that. I feel like the net income number was a little bit bigger, and I was just wondering, Mike, if you could just walk through, between that meeting and this meeting, kind of what maybe moved around with the budget.
Well, the HDC budget was 0.8 million, and then the HACM budget 0.8 million, HDC is 2.1. So that's how you'd get back to your 2.9.
Got it. Okay.
Both of those numbers were after I had some, what I would call late information, where I wanted to adjust the numbers that I had originally downwards, because I felt that there were some additional, that's the 1.1 of additional expenses that should be reflected. So you get from basically 2 million, 4 million down to 2.9, because we were taking out those 1.1. So I thought, if that makes sense, 4 million minus the 1.1 gets you down to the 2.9. 2.9 is made up of 2.1 and 0.8.
Yeah. So it is the same.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. Well, I guess if there are no further questions, I would entertain a motion on this item.
I would move approval of resolution 3091.
I'll second it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Can we have a roll call, please?
Vice Chair Hans Booter,
Yes.
Commissioner Kevin Healy,
Yes.
Commissioner Kathleen Bellastaros,
Yes.
Commissioner Francine Goodwin,
Yes,
Commissioner Maria Arizaro.
Yes.
That concludes the roll call vote.
Okay. We're going to move on to item 9, resolution 3094, a resolution on the 7th Amendment to the health loan agreement with the California Housing Finance Agency.
Thank you. We took out a $500,000 loan to purchase some property in Greenfield. The property was purchased and the agency was paying back approximately $100,000 a year for the past 6 years. However, with the $100,000 in the interest payments that were being made, the principal balance of the loan was not decreasing because of the amendments that were on it. This year, myself and the finance department, especially Kimberly Shehorn, got together with Tom Armstrong, and we asked them to rewrite a new amendment that we could make installments for the next 5 years. We'll pay $100,000 plus whatever interest at the end of the year, and then have the final payment actually due in 2027, so that the loan can be paid off. Another caveat of this is if we do development at this site, which we have been looking into, then we can take the development and use those fees generated to just go ahead and pay it off at that time without any type of prepayment penalty or thing of that nature. So this would be the amendment that we need to sign, and it will really help us in getting this debt officially paid off and not having so much interest payments and then payments made each year that were not affecting the overall principal balance.
Questions from commissioners on this item? I just had a question, which was, I know this is well before your time, but how, I mean, a $500,000 loan and $100,000 interest a year. Is that right? I mean, it sounds like a 20% interest rate on a loan originated a few years ago. Is that?
That's not normal practices. I was looking at the first 6 amendments to see how the payment was being generated, why the principal payment was not going down. And I think it was all because, well, seemingly it's all because it was tied into a development that never took place. That was promised to happen in Greenfield. And so the way that it was structured, every year you were making these payments because you was continually saying, we're gonna develop the land, and so we're gonna make this payment, and then the development is gonna pay the rest of the balance. But since that never happened, it just was a continuous cycle, and nobody ever that I'm aware of went back and revisited any of the documentation to have it changed for the benefit of the agency.
Yeah, and we really appreciate you identifying that item. It seems odd. It just seems odd to me. I mean, this is the the California Housing Finance Agency, and I mean, I may be missing some of the details on it, but from first blush, $500,000 paying $100,000 of just like pure interest a year, it seems like a usurious, interest rate. So it's just interesting. I don't know, but
When I first saw it, I couldn't believe it because I felt like the loan should have been paid off. Because this is a state agency and you paying this much money, how could you possibly still owe any money? But the principal balance was still, I think it's 532 or something like that. It's on the paper. Yeah, here it is. So the principal balance. Now that lost.
is it possible? We were making payments though. It's not that the interest was compounding without us paying it. It's that we were
No,
paying
they
it.
was paying it once a year.
It was interest only, basically.
Yeah, it's structured really strange. What I can do is look, kind of give you a more detailed and pull the other 6 amendments again. But the way that they had it, it just seemed like everything was contingent on this development. Once you do the development, this is gonna be paid out of 9 or 4% tax credit deal, and then the rest of the balance was supposed to go away. So I think the original intent was probably to only pay $100,000 because they thought they was gonna have a development on the site. But then once the development didn't take place, that same paperwork just sat there. So every year it was the same thing. You don't have a development, so you're paying this amount of money. And so it's just constantly sitting there.
Yeah, I mean,
$533,379.80.
yeah, those are the kind of things that just make you want to tear your hair out, so we definitely appreciate you finding that and, having this schedule to start to actually pay down the principal. It is, it's obviously frustrating to find those kinds of things.
Money could have been used in other areas.
Yeah, exactly. But it's heartening to know that we are starting to find these things, and increasingly seeing that, which is great. So if there are no other questions, I'd entertain a motion on this resolution.
We got one
I
question.
just have a quick question. Is there a developer now that's going to be developing the site?
No, ma'am, we are doing some pre-development work out there, and we hope to have some, which talks with Greenfield have improved. And we've even found out that they would not be as opposed to a senior development. So it might be something that we can get in the works.
Good. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone want to make a motion on this item?
I'll make a motion for resolution 3094.
I'll second.
Okay, the resolution has been moved and seconded. Can we have a roll call, please?
Vice Chair Hans Buder,
Yes.
Commissioner Kevin Healy,
Yes.
Commissioner Kathleen Bellastros.
Yes.
Commissioner Francine Goodwin,
Yes.
and Commissioner Maria Arizako.
Yes.
That concludes the roll call vote.
Okay, and that moves us to item 10, which is information items. And item 10A, the first one up is the human resources report.
Good evening, members of the board. For the HR report, we have a few updates for the month of August. As of August 24th, the Monterey County Force Cadre Summer Youth Program has officially ended. All the youth participants enjoyed their time with HACM and gained some invaluable insights throughout their experience here. We are looking forward to working with the workforce based on board on the other collaborative events in the future. As Leek had mentioned in her executive report, the union negotiations are underway. This year, we've appointed Mike McDougall, who's also on the call today, as an HR consultant who previously worked with HACM on our last MOU as our chief negotiator. We recently engaged with the union and exchanged proposals in our meetings over the past few weeks, which we'll be discussing these proposals further during our closed session tonight. In our ongoing efforts to promote positivity and inclusivity within HACM, I am pleased to announce the launch of the Cheers for Peers initiative. This initiative is centered to encourage employees to express their appreciation for each other in a positive light. Employees are encouraged to write a brief note of recognition, which is then displayed on our Cheers for Peers board. Since the launch of this program, we've seen an overwhelming amount of positivity across the agency, which is great. And for employees acknowledging their contributions within the workplace. Our recruitment efforts have also been ongoing as we search for top candidates to join our team. Currently, our open vacancies are Director of Housing Programs and an eligibility specialist position. We've also recently received internal applications for the eligibility specialist role, and we're in the final stage of securing a candidate for this position. An update will be provided to the board next month in regards to that candidate. In line with our commitment to maintaining operational efficiency, we've also welcomed a new maintenance employee, Eli Corona. Eli will provide valuable support to the maintenance department, during our department, during a period when one of our team members who was on leave at this time. Our employee departures for the month of August are Juan Mosqueda, who was our temp office assistant, and Ruben Bravo, who was our eligibility specialist, both served in our HCB department. In an effort to optimize agency costs and streamline operations, we've significantly reduced the number of temporary employees. Currently, we have 5 temporary employees altogether, down from 9 where we had earlier in June of this year. For our workers' comp claims this month, we're currently 1 new claim, bringing our total claims for this year up to 4. We're also working diligently with our attorneys on resolving 2 outstanding claims for employee relations. And that concludes the HR report for the month of August, unless there's any questions from the board.
Any questions from commissioners?
Hey, James, I was looking at the workers' comp stats and I guess a little bit concerned just based on the current number for this year and the status. Is there anything that you've identified that maybe is contributing to those increasing numbers on the workers' comp side?
Yeah, a lot of it's stemming from the maintenance department. We're working diligently with the maintenance department right now with their supervisor to kind of roll out kind of safety programs and revisit those. So we're addressing them as we speak.
Thank you.
James, I was wondering if you could just give us a just an update. I think this, given the structure of the agency where, you know, vouchers are a big part of what we do. And the fact that we're under the gun on the utilization front, I was wondering if you could just sort of give us an update on the recruitment efforts for the Director of Housing Programs.
Yeah, I mean, we're aggressively looking out. We posted it throughout kind of different platforms, reaching out to different agencies. We are getting a pool of applicants. It's either the pay range scale that we have, that we currently offer, but also the relocation assistance as well. They're kind of looking into it. A lot of the candidates that we had either they have the director experience or they don't have the HCB experience. So because of the history of the agency, Zalika and I have also discussed kind of not setting up the team up for failure and kind of guiding them in the direction of hiring the right candidate versus having a revolving door with multiple candidates throughout. But we are kind of aggressively looking at different agencies and working to try to see what other candidates are out there currently.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big believer in getting the right person and waiting for the right person. Maybe neither here nor there, but we've had succession issues in the past where we've been left in the lurch trying to figure out who's next up. Maybe a discussion at some point, is there some ability to merge this position into somebody who could almost act as a kind of a deputy ED, or be able to have that type of capacity where maybe we could justify paying up a little bit more. That's one thought that just kind of came to mind. Might kill a couple birds with one stone. And then the other question really was, what is the pay range? And given the importance of this position, is the market telling us something? And do we have capacity to go up a bit?
Yeah, I know that Zalik and I have discussed about kind of having an interim director or having someone internally kind of promote. So that's what we're looking into, where, the position's been advertised since April of this year. So we were hoping that someone from that department would kind of step up to the plate and actually take on that role. We're having conversations throughout, but they're still kind of leery as far as kind of taking that role on. As far as the pay range right now, the scale is, and I can't, give you a concrete kind of answer, but it's from 85,000 to about 114 a year. That's the range that I know off the top of my head. That is for that specific role. But we're kind of looking at all angles right now for this position.
Yeah.
Kind of add a little something to what James said. Recently, we found out that Santa Cruz has been looking for over a year for HCV director. It really is a hard position to fill. And the candidates, a lot of them have been wanting to work remotely for over 50% of the work. And right now the agency doesn't have that and is not able to take that on. So if we get a good candidate, and even if the salary had to, maybe be looked at differently, definitely that would be something that would come to the board. But unfortunately, all the people that we had, either they were a director but never did HCV, or they did HCV but maybe not the HCV director, and then they want to work remote for over 50% of the time that they're working. And with the program in need the way it is now, we have to have somebody on site. So there's a lot of contributing factors. But hopefully we'll find somebody soon. And we have been taking a team approach in the department to try to empower the current staff and see if there was somebody back there with that leadership ability, because we have persons back there that have been with the agency for 30 years.
Yeah, and I definitely think we need somebody with a background in the HCV program. My first comment just I think maybe was misinterpreted. My question was more, a lot of agencies, obviously we're a bit of a smaller mid-sized agency, but a lot of agencies have that number 2, where it's sort of like a deputy executive director role. And my question was, would there be some possibility of creating a role like that and having that person, fulfill these responsibilities, which might allow us to maybe attract, a higher caliber candidate and pay a little bit more. So that was more my question there, and actually bringing somebody in from the outside. So something to think about. Okay, if there's no other questions on the HR report, let's please move on to item 10B, which is the finance report.
For tonight's meeting, we're finance is reporting on June of 2023. As everyone is aware, we've been working diligently on all forms of audits, and we have gotten to the point where we're now working on the internal controls portion of the 2022 audit for HACM. We finished 2021, which was a major milestone, and I think it also puts us in a position to receive some money, which is a good thing. We did participate in the QAD audit on August the 8th, and we'll be receiving additional training and feedback from HUD when we receive the letter that comes as a result of the audit. We did it just recently. We've been meeting with directors and having Teams meetings so that we could go through each of their individual properties and give them the ability to see what is going on in each of the properties that they're managing. So this is allowing them to act as basically their own CEO for their portion of the business, and with the financial reports being reviewed, they will know that they're making or losing money, which is a good step forward in terms of visibility of numbers to a broader group within the organization. Finance is looking at the procurement policies. We do have two policies. They are pretty much more than likely a mirror image of each other between HACM and HDC, but I'm going to be going through and doing a specific gap analysis between the two and make sure that we know where there might be differences, and are we comfortable with the differences, and do they serve a purpose that should be retained. For the month of June, we booked a non-cash entry for depreciation, which was about $500,000. Without that, we would have been right around break even for the month. So we're going from, as I said earlier, from basically $1 million loss to about an $800,000 gain for next year. So I think that we have the capability to do that, and I think it's a fair stretch for us to go after. And I appreciate everybody's input in those budgets that we have gotten to this point already. And it'll get better and easier next year.
Any questions from commissioners on the finance report? Okay, thank you, Mike. We're going to move on to item 10C, which is the property management report.
Good evening, commissioners. Just want to go over a couple of highlights of my report. The Wells Fargo audit was completed for Hacienda Senior. We received really good feedback from the auditor. We haven't received any documents, but we will make you aware once we receive our response for that audit. We completed the work order reconciliation project together with the asset manager. So I want to thank Mayra for helping us with that. We also submitted the SRIs for the FLC properties. And as I mentioned in the committee meetings, we got those approved. So that is going to be a substantial rent increase for that property, which is going to bring much needed additional revenue. We also received visits from tax credit for the East Salinas Family Rat property that was completed over a 2-day period. They looked at 54 units and 49 files. So that's done and completed. We're working on the responses for the audit for the rest of the rat properties. And I believe those have already been submitted to the state for review. We are working with ERD again for the implementation of Rent Cafe, as Sulika mentioned. That is going to be implemented on the 1st. We are going to be rolling out Rent Cafe for the rat properties first, and then we will move to a second phase, which will be the tax credit properties, and then the rest of the properties will be in a third phase, just to kind of avoid any issues, to try to roll them out in steps. And we're also going to be implementing the screening. So all that is set up to be in effect September 1st. That is going to greatly improve our operations. So it is a welcome change for the agency. And I want to thank Mayra Sandra and Sulika for all their work in making this happen. And the King City migrant rehab is on their way. We've encountered a couple of issues with siding. We discovered a lot of damage that was not part of the original rehab, but we're able to negotiate with the contractor. We did have some contingency money that we can use to get that completed. So that work is happening. We did receive an extension to get that work completed. So that's happening actively right now. PDM, as Sulika mentioned, we're working with her and other agencies to get that property situated. And we will be providing additional updates once we receive them. The waiting list for Tola Vista, Montecito Watson, and I believe Casanova were open for 2 weeks in the month of August. We received a high number of applications. We've been processing those applications, and we already started housing some of the units we had from that wait list, so that it's a good, it was a good turnout. A lot of people did submit applications for that. And our rent collection, it's gotten better. We've revised some of the rent collection reports that we were completing. We found some flaws on them. We revised them, and the numbers that we're getting are much more in tune with what we are collecting monthly. Right now, I have the project for leasing up all the vacancies, which I will be getting together with Sulika this week to go over that project. And that's all the updates I have for that report. If you guys, if any commissioners have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them.
I have a question. I have a question. Vice Chair Peter, so on all these properties, is there any waiting list open right now, or they're all closed?
Right now, the only one that is open was the farm labor.
It's a farm labor.
Farm labor, yes.
Okay.
And the 5-bedroom in Gonzales. 5-bedroom in Gonzales.
Okay.
Yeah, those are the only two. We did open those, but it was only a brief window for 2 weeks in August.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Any other questions about the property management report?
I just wanted to thank him, Jose, for all the work that's been done at Casanova Plaza. It's really appreciated, at least by me, as being a resident. And I think the other residents appreciate it too. Sometimes it's inconvenient, you know, like the front door that we did this past weekend. But the repair on the front sidewalk, but the results are good, and it's appreciated. It makes the property look better, and it makes it safer for the residents to enter and exit. So thank you very much.
You're welcome, Commissioner. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, then we're going to move on to item 10D, which is the development report.
Good evening, everybody. Just a few highlights from my report. We're expecting some additional funds to come in this month. Chase Bank finally funded the contractor draw that was on hold. That was $1.3 million we were expecting. We had fronted the money. So it was really good news that we finally got that cleared. That's part of the One Parkside development and part of our conversion to perm that we're working on. We're also anticipating an additional $3 million again on Parkside. That's our second capital contribution. That's going to help pay down part of the construction loan, and we are going to get a portion of that that's going to pay some of our deferred developer fee. So that'll be unrestricted funds that are coming to for housing development. We've also got one of our bigger projects is going to be looking at the 15-year options for, there's about 4 or 5 developments that we'll be meeting to discuss that with along with Sulika, and we'll bring that up to our night development folks that are assisting on our bi-weekly calls. so that we can see what strategies we want to take, and then we'll be updating the board on how we'll be proceeding. So we're still in the very early stages of that. We need to review a lot of documents from back when all of these deals closed, going back to like 2006. But that's a project we'll be taking on. Potential development opportunities. You heard a little bit about Greenfield, our Greenfield lot. We are gonna focus on that since we own the land and we've got a preliminary market study out being done, just as further support that senior housing, that there is a great need out there for that. So we'll be updating that every month to you. The other two properties that are in Salinas, those are both out with the city. We've requested some funding to do some preliminary studies. And then the parcel with the county on East Laurel, I do not have an update for you on that. Hopefully by next month, I'll have touched base and met with someone from the county to see what the opportunities are for that. Regarding, again, also on Parkside, we have some funds that the city has been holding, some retention funds for the home and PLHA monies that we were awarded. Those are going to get released by the end of the month, and I just need some invoices to provide to them and some additional documentation that they need. We've got our iBank loan that's still outstanding, about $360,000. I took a walk with the architect and Zulika up here in our front office, so we're hoping that maybe that will be a potential improvement to provide some additional office spaces for staff with a little bit more privacy. And then the next big thing is our time and job, but I will get into that when we get into our meeting since I've got a resolution presenting to the board today. Other than that, we've got project base. We've entered into a few more AHAP contracts. We're expecting a HAP contract coming up soon for some units out on East Garrison. So that's an ongoing project as well, since we do have some sites that are out either under construction or just starting construction. So we're monitoring that. If anyone has any questions on any other items on my report, I'll be happy to answer. Lucy.
Okay, if there are no questions, we're going to move on to item 10E, which is the housing programs report.
The housing programs report, we spent $4,490,612 in HAP for the month of July. For the HCV programs, $38,965 was for mainstream. And then $315,494 was for EHB. Mainstream and EHB get their own separate money that we have to account for. And we've been trying to spend the money that was allocated because HUD did give us some extra money last year, especially for the mainstream program. So that was awesome for us to have reached that milestone and increase HAP spending for the mainstream program specifically. Currently, we have 142 vouchers that are out searching. This does not include EHB. For EHB, we have 99 vouchers that are out searching. We try to utilize as many vouchers as we can before September the 30th. Because after September the 30th, any vouchers that were terminated under EHB, if they're not released, we'll lose them. So our allocation may go from 269 to 267. We will be taking PBB applications for East Garrison. They have 15 units that were previously awarded. They're almost ready to start the applications. I think they wanted to start the occupancy in October and start taking applications late in September. In the month of August, we had 670 PBB units leased because we did have some deaths and other issues, because for July it was 683. The total waiting list is 1,168, which we're currently working with about 565 of those applicants. And then we plan on having those 2 events, which would exhaust that waiting list completely. For July, we issued 106 vouchers. and we leased up 67. So we're increasing our voucher issuance and lease up each month. We did all 29 vouchers that were allocated to San Benito County, according to the MOU that we have with the COC. And so now all 29 of those vouchers have reverted back to Monterey. And then we have 20 more scheduled for people that live in San Benito County. However, if one of them leases up, even if they go to Santa Cruz, we will not lose it. It won't be absorbed. We've made a deal with them that we will port the voucher, so it will still count for our EHB program. Foster Youth Initiative. I am very pleased to say we have been at 0 since 2021, but we currently have 2 referrals that have been processed, and vouchers have actually been issued, and they're out searching. So we're really emphasizing this program with our partner agencies to try to get these 65 vouchers leased up. And so this is a huge accomplishment because it was at 0 for the past 2 years. So hopefully we'll have even more now that we're having regular meetings. FSS has 67 participants. Of the 67, we have 35 families that are escrowing, and I believe they have 2 graduations coming up. So the only other thing that I would like to point out on here is that our family unification is at 93%. So we have almost utilized that entire program. And Mainstream actually has 15 vouchers issued where people are out searching. So if they keep working on it the way they have been the last month, in the next 3 months, we should have at least briefed enough people to be at 100% utilization if we can keep the referrals and things coming in the waiting list the way they're working it now. And other than that, that's pretty much it for the HCV program at this time, unless anybody have any questions.
I had a quick question, Zulika. I guess, first of all, I definitely like the trend line. I remember back this winter, there were a couple months there that were pretty thin in terms of, the number of vouchers issued and leased, and it's definitely ticking up. I guess the question I have is, to try to be specific, like what are kind of the specific goals that we have? And I know I've asked this in the past and every time I kind of forget, but what are the specific goals that we have, and what's the timeline that we need to get it achieved by? And is the key number the number they're actually leased?
The lease number is the key number. We want to have an additional 951 vouchers leased up by the end of December of this year. In order to do that, we need to brief at least 1,100 people. So the voucher issuance needs to go up to 1,100 based on the attrition rate for the agency. If we can brief that many people, we should be able to reach our goal of 951 leased, which would remove us from the HUD monitoring and have us at full utilization based on the payment standards that we have now. In order to do that, we are planning 2 events to have a mass issuance. We want to have a smaller one where we bring in maybe like 300 of the clients off the waiting list and issue vouchers to all 300 that day at the event, as long as they have their paperwork. And then we've been talking to the rodeo commission, and October 3rd or October the 5th, they will possibly let us use their location. And if that happens, we'll bring in the remaining people that's on the waiting list, which should probably be about 600 or so. And hopefully, as long as they have all their paperwork, we could issue all of them a voucher, brief them everything that same day. And so that way, all they'll have to do is leave and actually go, find a unit. So that's the plan. But besides that, the eligibility staff is trying to do 100 people a week with the briefings. Some of the barriers really that we face, and eligibility was probably one of the worst areas for utilizing the yardage system. So they had maybe 6 or 7 different spreadsheets that they were using instead of actually putting the information in the computer system. And so we removed basically all of them. I think it's still about 1 or 2 that we're working on getting resolved and actually getting them to use the software so that the life cycle of the voucher can be counted at every instance. That wasn't happening before. And just training them on a better way to do the interview process and the briefing process. So their numbers have increased. We're still working on it. And then, you know, they were really overwhelmed at first with just even the concept of trying to do 100 a week, because really they were doing maybe 25. And so I've been working with them, the team's been working with them to show them how it can be done. And that's how these numbers have increased. Because even with this increase in number, I still think it's some people that are not counted on this report because of those 2 manual processes that they are still doing. So we were working with them on that to get them the proper training. Yardage even come on board to try to help clear some of this stuff up. And so you should see a drastic change in these numbers. But we need to we need to issue around 1,100 so that we can lease up 951. That would put us at a 4% or less reserves for the end of the year, which is what HUD wants. And that would also have us in their good graces to get additional vouchers for next year when they have the other programs, and they're gonna issue out some more EHV as well. And I did do a leasing plan for the Section 8 department. I think it went out in the committee meeting packet, but I don't see it in this packet. So we'll make sure that goes back out to the board because it detailed every area that they needed to work on, what the goals were, and how we were planning on getting it. So Gabby, did you send that out in the committee? Because I don't see it on here, but we'll make sure that it gets sent out. And lastly, the landlords. I have to say the landlords have really been coming around. They seem like they're eager to work with the clients. Now that they know the housing authority is really backing them and we're trying to do this as a partnership, they're not as skeptical about housing the clients. It was a lot of positivity that came from that symposium. And even back in the department, they say they've noticed that the landlord calls have decreased and they have more rafters coming in to actually move the people in. So I think that was something that really helped the program. And I can see that us doing that moving forward in the landlord resource pages on the website is going to be beneficial.
Yeah, and I mean, I super appreciate the sense of urgency, and I think the creativity of trying to do a couple of kind of mass, voucher briefings, and I think that makes a ton of sense. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out, just because we're trying to fit like 10 times as much stuff through the same pipe, if you will. Like there's a certain amount of absorptive capacity out there in terms of landlords at any given time that'll rent to, families with vouchers. And so it'll be interesting to see how that plays out, whether our, success rate dips if we have a significant increase toward the end of the year here. So that's just more of a thing to watch, and I'm not sure we can do much about it. Zulika, just to clarify, when you say like 100 a week, you're saying like our goal is to issue 100 a week, so maybe like issue 400 a month. That's kind of the steady run goal going forward?
Yes.
Okay.
Because if we can do 400 a month for the rest of the year, we will have issued enough to really surpass the 951 based on how many terminations we have every month.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions on the housing programs front? Okay. Then it looks like we're about to go into closed session. And we're going to be going into closed session for government code section 54957.6. Discussions of labor negotiations with employee organizations representing employees of public housing board or agency. Government code section 54597. Discussions of certain matters relating to public employment, including personnel matters, evaluations, and disciplinary actions. And government code section 54956.9, subsection D, subsection 2. This section permits closed session discussions of certain matters relating to litigation involving the public housing board or agency. So with that, why don't we move into closed session here? Gabby, are we going to move folks to a waiting room?
Yeah, let me pause the recording and then I will move everyone out and lock the room.
Okay, we are returning from closed session and we have nothing to report out. We're going to move to item 12.
Excuse me, Hans, just that last item, the motion for that last item. The motion for the last item, the proposal for BDO, we do need to take an action on that.
Proposal for BDO, sure, yeah. So we did take action to authorize the executive director to enter into a contract with BDO to help us with the finances and accounting for some of our properties. So, Zalika, would that be a good summary?
Yes, sir. I think because of the amount, you still need to do a motion and a vote.
Oh, a full vote. Okay. In open.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Okay, and roll call, Vice Chair Hans Buder,
Yes.
Commissioner Kevin Healy,
Yes.
Commissioner Kathleen Bellastros,
Yes.
Commissioner Francine Goodwin,
Yes.
and Commissioner Maria Arizato.
Yes.
And that concludes the roll call vote.
Awesome. And with that, we will move to commissioner comments. And we will start with Commissioner Orozco.
You can say any comments you want about.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh. Sorry about that. Well, just, I know it's my first meeting, but I do look forward to working with all of the commissioners and the staff and feel that I can certainly offer some of my background and expertise on housing, but definitely do look forward to working with all of you. So thank you.
Perfect. And then Commissioner Goodwin.
I wanted to thank our new commissioner for her wisdom and intake. I think she's going to be a valuable team player for us with her expertise, and wanted to welcome her. And I'll see you guys on the other side at the next meeting.
Thanks. And then Commissioner Ballesteros.
First, I want to congratulate Loretta Lozada on her 5 years of service. Thank you, Loretta. And then also, I wanted to commend the partnership of HACM and the Landlord Symposium of working together. And that was like a positive event. And also, Maria, it was a pleasure to meet you, and we're glad to have you as part of our Commissioner Roundtable. Thank you. Thank you to all the staff.
And Commissioner Healy.
I would echo the thanks to the staff and all the leadership team, to James and Zulika and Mike and Kim and Jose and Carolina. And welcome to Maria. We're looking forward to working together and looking forward to meeting you in person. And congratulations to Loretta.
Yeah, and I think I'd echo those comments as well. And, welcome, Maria. We are excited to work with you. I think you've got some awesome experience, which, I think will be very beneficial for what we're doing here. And also just in general, I think continue to see issues being addressed, which is what we like to see. So with that, I'm going to adjourn the meeting at 7:53. Are we staying in this same Zoom meeting, I'm assuming, to move to the HDC meeting?
Yeah.
Great. I'm gonna hand it over to Director Healy.
Okay, well, in the interest of time, as the hour of 8 o'clock is approaching, I would propose that we convene the Housing Development Corporation meeting right now, unless anyone has an objection. So with that being said, I'll call this meeting to order Monday, August 28th at 7:54 p.m. The meeting of the Housing Development Corporation. Roll call, please.
Chair Kevin Healy,
Present.
Vice Chair Francine Goodwin,
Present.
Director Kathleen Bellastros,
Present.
Director Hans Buder,
Present.
Director Maria Arzaco,
Present.
and Director Wizard is absent. That concludes the roll call.
Okay, we have a quorum, and that'll move us to item number 3. Gabby, do we have any comments from the public? Any raised hands?
I do not see any.
Hearing none, we'll move on to item number 4, the consent agenda. I would entertain a motion for approval of the minutes for the July 24th meeting.
I move approval.
And I second the motion.
Been moved by Director Buder and seconded by Director Ballesteros to approve the minutes. Roll call, please.
Chair Kevin Healy,
Yes.
Vice Chair Francine Goodwin,
Yes.
Director Kathleen Bellastros,
Yes.
Director Hans Buder,
Yes.
Director Maria Arzaco.
I'll abstain since I wasn't in attendance.
Yes, ma'am, and that concludes the roll call vote.
Motion passes. We'll move on to old business, item number 5. HDC Resolution 227, resolution approving the operating budget for fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2023 and ending June 30th, 2024.
This resolution was brought in front of the Finance Committee and moved forward to the board agenda. Mike, would you give us a quick summary of the budget?
Quick summary.
For this year's budget, we're looking at a bottom line of 2.1 positive. And this is in contrast with last year's loss. Remember, last year we had a $2 million settlement that caused the loss. So without that in place, we have roughly 6 million in revenue, roughly 4 million in expense, and so about 2 million net income. And that's good news. So I would recommend that it be approved.
That sounds like very good news. Thank you, Mike. Are there any questions for this item? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
It's been moved by Director Ballesteros and seconded by Director Goodwin to approve resolution HDC 227. Roll call, please.
Chair Kevin Healy,
Yes.
Vice Chair Francine Goodwin,
Yes.
Director Kathleen Bellastros.
Yes.
Director Hans Buder,
Yes.
Director Maria Arzaco.
Yes.
That concludes the roll call vote.
Item passes, moving us to new business, item 6A. Resolution HDC 229, authorization to award repairs contract on the Tynan Village property for construction defects claim. Salika, Carolina?
Well, this resolution is for DKI to finish the work at Tynan Village. The Access actually started. They had a contract initially for $6 million. They completed all the work, so this contractor has been there the whole time. There was one item that was not included in the original bid. There was one section that had water intrusion. So the company that had existing experience with doing the work and was a part of the initial contract put in a proposal for $131,228.11 to complete the work. We checked with the auditors at Novogradac. We can take this proposal without rebidding out the work because they were previously on the other contract and because of the type of work that has to be done. And then we also had Jose Acosta, who's the director of housing, and Ricardo, I don't know his last name, who is the maintenance supervisor, to review this, to make sure that the prices were reasonable and in line. They reviewed it. They said it is in line with what a project of this magnitude should cost, and that it was reasonable. And so with that being said, we would like to ask for the board to consider approving this proposal so that we can move forward for the work. And if you have any other questions, any specific questions about the work that's being done, Carolina can answer that because she's been over there walking the property and talking with them since this began, when Access was doing the work, when the initial contract came out for the $6 million.
Thank you, Zulika. Are there any questions for this item? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion.
I move that we approve resolution MDC 229.
Second that.
There was a motion made by Director Orozco, correct? And seconded by Director Booter to approve this item. Roll call, please.
Chair Kevin Healy,
Yes.
Vice Chair Francine Goodwin,
Yes,
Director Kathleen Ballesteros.
Yes.
Director Hans Booter,
Yes.
Director Maria Arosasco.
Yes.
And that concludes the roll call vote.
Motion passes. Moving us to our information items. We have two information items, item 7A, the property management report, and item 7B, the development report, both of which we reviewed in the HACM meeting. So if there are any additional questions or any additional information to be presented, please proceed on the property management report.
There's no additional information for the property management report.
Are there any additional questions or questions that have come up since Mr. Acosta delivered the property management report in the Housing Authority meeting? Hearing none. Thank you, Jose. We'll move on to item 7B, the development report.
I don't have anything additional to add, unless anyone has any questions.
Thank you, Carolina. Are there any questions that have come up since the presentation of the development report in the Housing Authority meeting, or any additional questions? Hearing none, we'll move on to item number 8, director comments. Director Booter put Director Orozco on the spot during the Housing Authority meeting, so why don't we start with Director Goodwin?
thank you for cutting this meeting short. And I appreciate that. And I look forward to working with our new commissioner and thank our executive director for all the positive things moving forward that she's working on, trying to get the our agency in shape, and all the hard work that the commissioners go to making sure that the meetings go smoothly and that. And anyway, and have a good evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Goodwin. Director Ballesteros.
Just want to say thank you to Carolina, Jose, all the staff, and Zulika. Thank you for all the information today.
Thank you, Director Ballesteros. Director Buter.
No comments.
No comments. Director Orozco.
Thank you. I just also want to commend the staff on your reports. Gosh, very thorough, very informative. I've seen a lot of reports, and these are just, it gives you a clear picture of the work that's being done. I just want to commend the staff on a job well done, and hopefully, if I can, I'd like to meet with each of the staff members just to get a little bit more, be a little bit more informed as to which each of you do within your department. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Director Orozco. I'll bring up the rear. I would just express my appreciation to Carolina and Jose and Zulika for doing the diligence relative to the contract for the repairs. I know that there was some concern discussed during the finance meeting about whether or not we needed to take that back out to bid. So I was reassured that based on the research that was done. So thank you all for your continued hard work. And we'll move us to adjourn at 8:04 p.m. Have a good evening.